In this video, we're going to have an amazing display of rare power. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and I am not alone. We have a wonderful person we have dragged over here from Watcher of Realms. I've been chatting with him for a while. I've done a ton of stuff on his channel. He is finally good enough to get on my channel, and we're talking with Fastidious. How are you doing, my friend?
Hello, how are you doing, Bront? Yeah, finally I reached your standard. I played Raid for many years, like 3.5 years, and then I took several years off, and now I've returned, and I'm finishing my second week. It's day 14. So you told me I had to get some licks in before you'd let me on the channel, even though I've had you on my channel several times. So I'm happy to be here, and quite frankly, I'm extremely nervous because I'm in the presence of Raid royalty right now. I mean, best free-to-play player in the game.
Yeah, but you've been playing for 14 days, so you're now officially an expert, I believe, is how that works,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, that's completely accurate. Yeah.
awesome. In fact, we are actually working on another project kind of related to this as well. If you want to tease that a little bit, we're going to talk about some rares a lot more, working on some of his stuff.
Yeah, you can think of this video as a little amuse-bouche. We're going to do 5 rares each, non-voids, non-starters that we really love and are viable deeper into the game. However, a question I've been asked a bunch because when I came back to the game, some people came back with me and also came to it for the first time. And they're like, who is food? Who is chicken? And who is worth keeping? So obviously we're touching on that in this video, but Bront and I, we're going to collab on a project on my website, fastidious.gg, in which essentially it's going to be like, I don't know if I'll go super cute with it or not, but something like winner, winner, or chicken dinner. So is it one you're actually willing to keep, or is it just food? And there'll be like little icons. I think we discussed Bront. Maybe we'll have like a 6 for worth to 6-star, a 5 for worth to 5-star, maybe an FW for find a way early game for faction wars, and then just a beautiful chicken logo so people can know mindlessly chomp chomp. You got some food on your hands, but it should be a lot of fun. It'll be a fairly big project. Probably will take us 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, but definitely something to look forward to. And I cannot wait to collaborate with you on it. And it's going to say, we'll have a big cat picture in the corner or something. It'll say powered by the herder, something like that.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Should be a good early game resource, and maybe that'll build into something else. Maybe not, depending on how well that takes off. But definitely excited on that. So we should be, talking about 5 rares each that are at least worth a 50, not necessarily a 60. Some of them might be. Some of them might be late game. Some of them are just really, really good for good progression early on, definitely worth building. These are ones that we would not shy away from investing some level of investment in, whether or not it be incredible, whether or not, obviously, it's going to depend on what your counts are, what epics you pull as well. Because obviously, you get an epic that does the rare's job better, you don't need the rare. But you
Yeah.
got any honorable mentions before we get into your top 5?
I do have one. So I tried to go for a theme here where the 5 I picked are all farmable, which I thought was kind of fun. You can get them all from the campaign. However, I'm gonna kick one of the farmables out, who was Spirit Host, in favor of someone who we just pulled. We just did summons on my channel where you were a guest, and we pulled a rare that I want to actually talk about, a different Spirit Affinity rare. But I did want to mention, like, if you get Spirit Host, unless you instantly get some other Dark Elf that's a better cleanser or just a better cleanser in general, she's such a good starter cleanser, starter buffer, simple aura, simple hero, simple champion. Like, yes, she's not going to age beautifully with your account, but she drops from campaign stage 4. And yeah, like, just keep that first copy until you outgrow her, which could be a day or could be months. It could be 2 months or something. So
Yeah, and I think
hold on
she's
to her
actually
at the
part of a
beginning.
fusion as well. So you can certainly grab
She is,
her,
yeah.
build her a little bit, use her for a Doom Tower floor or two, because there's a couple Doom Tower floors she's good on, and then feed her with that minimal investment as part of that fusion, and you don't have to worry about it again. So definitely a good honorable
Absolutely. I
mention call
think
out.
you use her to make the Justiciar with the
Yeah.
4 farmable rares for your Relic Keeper fusion. But yeah, the gist of it is also, it's 10%, but the all speed aura, like, if you just have Spirit Coast and Kale, who you're going to start with Kale, right? I mean, that's
Yep.
pretty great first week faction wars at the very, very least.
And I'm going to throw in my honorable mention here. And
Hmm.
I love this dude, but he's just not quite going to make the list. Avir the Alchemage is one of my favorite rares. Um, Part of the reason he's probably not on the list is he is straight up power crypt by Runekeeper Dazdirk, who does just about everything he does better. But he's got a poison on the A1, which is, usable in clan boss or something. It's not a great poison, but again, he's a rare. He's got decrease attack and a conditional decrease speed on an AoE, which is actually very good, even if it's the low end decrease attack. And he's actually got a good turn meter fill and heal on a 4-turn cooldown. And it's based off of
Mm.
his max HP, which is actually pretty solid for a rare. So I like this dude. I honestly still think he's a good 5-star. He can be on an end game Faction Wars team, but there's several other champions that kind of creep him out a little bit. So like this dude though, he's pretty good. So all right, who's your first actual list champion? It doesn't have to be number 5. It can go in any order, but
I actually don't have an order,
yep.
so but we don't have a choice. Let's go to the demon spawn, a nice simple one, but a champion a lot of people use in general. We're going to go Diabolus, the very first rare listed. A lot, especially if you don't use a starter link like you're getting from me or the Hell Hades challenge or something like that. There's a bunch of starter links going out, but if you're not starting with like a Tagore, or you don't get a lucky early apothecary or something, I think Diabolus is really, really good. Really, kind of known to be good for starter arena. If we go to that A2 there, pretty dang cool. It's a little AoE and you get the big version increased speed. You can fully free to play quickly book her out because she's farmable in 12-3 or 12-6,
Yep.
wherever you're farming in stage 12. But I do think people sleep on the A3. So positive charge here. This is like a baby version of like what a Deacon Armstrong or like really crazy world like an Armands or something does, but you will book her out, right? So it's a 4-turn cooldown. You can get her going pretty fast because she has 110 base speed, which is kind of Looney Tunes for a farmable rare. This helped me a ton way back in my day in Faction Wars, like a ton, because you
Mhm.
can get 2 Diabolists out there on your team, which is what I did. And then as long as you have like 2 or 3 other acceptable demon spawn, it's a hard carry for a long time in Faction Wars. So you'll find use outside of Faction Wars early on if you need it in the arena with those 2 skills, but especially that A3 I was like kind of in love with back in the day, and I felt like people slept on her maybe because she drops so often when you're farming all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you end up not building her with accuracy and you just get the turn meter fill, that is still very, very valuable. And obviously, the turn meter decrease if you can land it, which in Faction Wars is a lot easier because you don't need a lot of accuracy early on in Faction Wars either. Plus, as a Magic champion, she's probably going to get some of your affinity bonuses from your Great Hall as well. So that's certainly going to be helpful. So,
Totally. And you can like ignore stats on her because like as if you had any other DPS, if you have 2 of them, it's
mhm.
like just only speed and accuracy. That's what I did. And yeah, of course it falls off, but to a point it gets you very far.
She's fairly tanky too. Actually, that's a lot of HP on
Yeah.
a rare champion too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm actually going to stick in the demon spawn then since we are here and going to go with Marquez, who is a very, very underrated nuker, amusingly enough.
Mm.
There were some videos way back in the day talking about how this could hit almost as hard as Trunda if you can set it up properly. The weaken here, and it is the weaker, lower version of weaken, but if she gets that secondary hit has some pretty nuts multipliers on it. Even if she doesn't, she actually can still hit fairly hard with this ability. And for a defense based champion, she's tanky. She does good damage. She's also got this single target freeze that's actually got a 75% chance bookable to 100 of landing. It's 4-turn cooldown once it's booked, but rare books not too hard to get here as well. Decrease attack on the A1. All 3 of these abilities absolutely smack if you build her for damage. And as a defense, again, she's not squishy like a lot of the attack rares are going to be if you're going to build them for damage. So she's probably one of the top rare damage dealers beyond the starter champions. So definitely a champion worth grabbing. In fact, I used her as my DPS in fact conquering Demon Spawn at a 5-star. In fact, too. I didn't even 6-star her on my main.
That's amazing. She also looks so good for a rare. She could almost be a legendary with this aesthetic. Certainly an epic.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of these that look similar because this Demon Spawn skins were used a lot. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the textures on them look better than a lot of the other textures on some of the Demon Spawn. So yeah, it's definitely out there. So all right, what's your number 2?
Yeah, so I said I had to kick Spirit Host off the list and make her an honorable mention because of someone I pulled. So if we go to the Barbarians, you know who I'm going to say because you were just there.
Yep.
We pulled maybe my all-time favorite rare, besides like maybe the stars, but no, maybe even still. I remember when she came out and I was so hyped about her, thinking she'd be so good, and I was right. Let's start with the bad part of her kit. It's insane to me. Insane. If you click on every skill, it says has an additional 25% chance of inflicting a crit. How is this not a passive? And it just says all hits have a 25% extra chance. Why did they write that line? And it's the weirdest
Because they didn't do
Sloppiest,
passives
strangest thing
back
to
when
me.
this happened is probably why. So everybody's got a passive now, so the passives are a thing. This is an old school champion, but
Well,
yeah,
I
this
remember when
is
she was added, so it had to be like 2020 or 2021. It couldn't have been like an 18, 19 kind of champion. So it's just bizarre to me, but
mhm.
whatever. Let's get into the good stuff. AoE on the basic. So she's the kind of on the A1, she's the kind of champion who can grow with your account because there's other interesting things you can do with her, but eventually you can just put her in that stun set and just really take advantage of that. If we talk about the other interesting things though, the A2 actually slaps. So you get the also all these have the extra crit, so you only have to build her with 75% crit, but effectively it's only 60 because you start with 15. It really, really helps.
And you
And
have
then
a crit
this
rate
one,
more
she's
on
gonna.
her too, actually, which is actually another
Oh,
reason that
true.
she's
Yeah,
good.
great point. So it's really 53% additional crit you have to find. You can really easy, especially early on, slap together a full crit build, effectively getting her where she needs to be if you choose to use that aura. But ignoring 75% of the target's defense, the multipliers are fine, but ignoring 75% of the target defense, the end result is great. So
Mhm.
this always really impressed me for a rare. And then I think her best skill, obviously, is going to be her A3. This is pretty wacky. It takes a ton of books, so you're going to have to pull a lot of dupes of her, this, that, or the other. Single target, extra crit, like we said. But this hits hard and it's a full turn meter drop. So a lot of stuff where you want to manipulate, like in the faction wars, maybe because of the affinity you're bringing into Fire Knight to buy yourself some time. This is a really, really cool move. And overall, I just think there's enough going on with all of her skills. I think she's top tier for me. And I think she'll last on a lot of people's accounts for a while, depending on who they pull.
Yeah, I mean, she's actually really good for some of the rare secret rooms later on in the game, especially because you can put that A1 stun sets on there. If you're looking for a Cold Heart-esque turn meter drop, which is super useful in a lot of places, she's effectively a budget Cold Heart, which being a
Yeah.
non-void makes her a lot easier to get overall, because it's a lot easier to get her from mystery shards, possibly. So yeah, love Soulbound Boyer. She is awesome. We are going to hop over into the high elves for me. And we're going to talk about one of the newer ones. Prosecutor is
Cool.
actually kind of a fun little champion here. Nub Raids is actually a big fan of her. I've got a copy of her as well, and I like her a lot too. She's got a double hitter with turn meter decrease on the A1, so she's got some Fire Knight potential there for early game Fire Knight, which is good. Plus, she's Spirit Affinity, which means that she's the right affinity for level 20 in Fire Knight, so that can be very, very helpful. She's got a big decreased speed on an AoE on that A2 that books to a 3-turn cooldown. Now it's only a 75% chance, but the 3-turn cooldown kind of makes up for that, and she does some decent damage as well. And then she's got a triple hitter on the A3, which has also got a 100% heal reduction, which, I know we were actually talking on your channel looking for heal reduction at one point in time for
Yeah.
that Spirit Affinity boss for the potion keep. Very, very useful. Increase accuracy on this champion before attacking as well. So if you're short on accuracy, she can buff herself as well. I'm not going to say she's like the best of the best, but she could be very good for it's not Hydra, but for I guess you could use her in Hydra with that decreased speed, but you could certainly use her in a lot of areas where the decreased speed is going to be viable, and she will be a good Fire Knight champion for you.
Yeah, she seems fan. So what I'm excited about with your list is a lot of these guys are new, and I've never seen them before. So this is one of those, and definitely seems fantastic for Fire Knight, and then just general, just a nice high elves unit to have on your account. There's enough going on here for sure.
Yeah. So and in fact, I do while I'm in the high elves, I'm going to make another honorable mention here too. She's not included because we weren't
No
talking about voids,
voids. You said
but
no voids.
I know void. That's why she's an honorable mention. But she is the best rare burner in the game because she's got a 3-hit at random HP burn. So Selena
Oh
Nightcloak
wow.
also has got an AOE. Definitely worth grabbing if you get one of these rares as well. But mostly mentioned because she is new and we were here. So now that I'm done cheating, why don't you?
All right. Well, while we're here, reliquary tenders, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah,
Continuing on, I'll go to the all-time classic. It's kind of funny because, like I said, not to be too pluggy, but like now, like you have new creators coming back sponsored. You have a special link. So, like with mine, one of the champions you get is Ugo. So you just out of the gate have AOE decreased defense, right? Or you can use the Hell Hades free-to-play link. Or there's all
mm-hmm.
these things, right? But back in my day, you would hang out in campaign 9 nonstop. You know where I'm going with the
Oh yeah,
barbarians. And I would just sit there and farm until I had farmed enough cop. Because this was before faction guardians too. When I first did this, I would just farm until I had enough war maiden dupes to get her A3 booked out.
yep,
Which usually, because luck is not a thing, could take would be 13, I guess 14 because you need the base copy, War Maidens. So before ever there was 12-3, there was 9-3.
Hmm.
And that was very much my thing. And basically, War Maiden, she's simple. There's not too much to talk about. It's not like Ugo where she's got this confusing A3, this super OP, but more involved A2. She's simple. She's got this lame poison on the A1. Who cares? This A2 is okay, but she doesn't hit that hard. It's something, especially once you get that increased attack up, and then you go to the A3. But the A3, it's just a 3-turn cooldown. You can get lucky and just need 4 dupes or 4 rare books. AoE decreased defense. Simple as that. It's just huge. It's just necessary. If you're starting a fresh account and you don't have this, cheater code link or these cool promo codes, this, that, and the other, I mean, War Maiden is the all-time GOAT for this.
Yeah, and I mean, she's still great just because faction wars is a thing. So you're going to need somebody to
Yeah.
do this in the faction, and she's actually still, I think, the best decreased defense champion in the faction, which is pretty sad because there's some
Yeah.
legendaries that do that as well. So, but
And
yeah,
Armina, RIP, Armina.
yeah, Armina is just not great. Jetney the Giant's
Yeah.
the other one, and just not worth the investments as well. So just build yourself a War Maiden. End game, you might even throw her in a stun set because she does have the AoE right here as well. Still
Yeah.
really good for the secret rooms because this decreased defense is super helpful late game. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Simple and good.
Yep. All right. We are going to go into one of the newer factions. So one of the ones that I think we were talking about him recently, but he is probably one of my favorite new ones that we have here is Bowsmith Flannan. This dude is still doing work on my free-to-play account. I was absolutely lucky to have pulled him. We get a 2-hitter on the A1 that has a chance of placing stun and a chance of decreasing turn meter, which is awesome on both hits, by the way, too. So that's absolutely insane on a rare. Uh, Low end decreased speed, but he's got a 100% chance to place it. Attacks all enemies as well on a 3-turn cooldown. Got an ally attack that puts increased accuracy. It's a low version, but it's increased accuracy on everybody on your team as well. 4-turn cooldown. It comes with a single ally. Amazing for Fire Knight. Yes, it is kind of random who that other ally you get is, but you basically get hit. It's a free hit with his A1 with everyone getting increased accuracy and an extra person getting an extra A1 hit. So kind of hard to complain about. And if that wasn't it, he's also got this passive where he can grant himself an extra turn if he lands decreased speed on at least 3 enemies. So absolutely great for wave clear. Actually super helpful in Iron Twins early. Great for Fire Knights. Super useful all over the place. He's a great rare.
Yeah, I actually want to ask you. So right before we filmed this video, we were on my channel and we did some summons, which went a certain way, but we did get this guy on my account. So how high would you prioritize like booking him and building him on a new account like mine? Because it does seem like there's a ton of really helpful stuff going on here. And also he's defense based with his defense that's crazy high right behind me over my
He's
shoulder
a defense
over
based
here.
champion too, which is the other reason he's absolutely
Yeah,
insane.
he's totally.
You know,
But isn't that really high for a rare? Almost 1400.
that's high for an epic in some cases actually. So that's
Yeah,
actually
right?
pretty good. Good HP too. It's not like sometimes they sacrifice one of these entirely. No, he's got decent HP and really good defense. Speed's a little off, but he's a rare, so you'll kind of let him have that. And yeah, I mean, I brought him to 5 stars pretty quickly. He's probably a good 5-star once you get at least your next 6-star on your account.
Yeah.
And whether or not he goes beyond 5 stars will probably be depending on whether or not you find that you need what he brings or you found somebody else to do it a little bit better. Morag probably power creeps him a little bit just because she's got a better ally attack, but she doesn't have the decreased speed. So I could actually see a world where you could use Bowsmith and Morag in a team, for example.
I think the decreased speed, and then also it's small, but I think the increased accuracy is something for a very young account. I mean, that will be the difference. Very often I was lucky enough to get Frozen Banshee, who I guess honorable mention, she's awesome, obviously.
Mhm.
But from a mystery shard, and I have to keep using her accuracy aura for so much content, this early on. So I feel like that could be something, especially when you count all the other cool stuff he's doing. He seems really fun.
Yeah, he does a lot of cool stuff. He does. I mean, he doesn't read. I guess he reads a little bit, but he's probably if you've got Frozen Banshee booked up for what you need her for, he's probably the next rare to book, honestly. So easy call to get him
Cool.
booked. I mean, heck, I just recently built a couple of these on my mains just to make sure that I had him for some secret rooms and places where he could be useful because he's actually better than some of these epics. So
All right, we got two more. The next one, the last one I want to save for last because I think I'm mostly going to want to hear you talk about him because you said he has all these fun new uses. So for
Oh
now,
yeah.
let's get this lady out of the way. We'll go to the High Elves. She's pretty fun. Again, she's farmable in stage 6 this time. So remember, Diablos was stage 12, War Maiden was stage 9. Now we're going down to stage 6. This is going to be Eris. So Eris, I think, is very known. At least back in my day, she was because you can run these fun teams like with the Maida and stuff like that. These cool, unkillable, unblockable, no damage teams in the
Yep.
clan boss. So she gets hype for that. But I think people sleep on the fact that she's just legitimately pretty good as well. So I'm not saying she's going to break your account in half, but especially for something like Faction Wars or anywhere you need a little extra boost, there's enough going on here, in my opinion. So right out at the aura, the dungeons, that can help you very early on. But then if we go to the basic, this is you could if you're manualing, you could get used to this. It doesn't really matter, but it's really just this A2 in the passive. So the A2, you get your one target cleanse, which very often early can be enough. And obviously in clan boss, it's enough. And then you're in the big version to increase speed. You got to book her out, but again, she's farmable. This is going to be 100% chance to do it. 2 turns. And then this passive, you get that counterattack whenever any ally is attacked, anyone else is attacked, and she can deal some damage. She absolutely can. So like, there's no AOE here or anything like that, but she's putting out very, very, very consistent counterattacks. A half decent build, especially early on, she can carry you pretty nicely. I think a lot of people also early on, especially if you're like me, you go really heavy on the magic units. So like you're kind of hurting for force units. So it's nice that she's red and you can
Yep.
definitely find use for her. She's my only high elf right now, so she's running my faction wars team, stuff like that. But just overall, she's clearly perfect for these very unique clan boss things, but she has a lot of early game use as well.
Yeah, I mean, she's not going to carry your Faction Wars team, but she is a solid addition to Faction Wars, and she's a reusable enough end game in a couple of other areas where you don't mind having one of them built up to a 60 if you want to. You don't have to 60 or if you're not going to build a Myth Air team. She'll certainly do good work for a 4-star or even a 5-star necessarily for you. So definitely a good champion. And yeah, she hits reasonably hard. The only thing you do need to be aware of is this counterattack is once per round, effectively, because it's got the 1-turn cooldown. So
Yeah,
don't
true.
expect her to be
Good
a
point.
machine gun with constantly A1ing every time you're getting attacked there either.
Yeah, that's
But
true. That's good clarification.
yeah, so all right, we're gonna go. We're gonna dive into the dwarves and go with one of the ones that I think has gained a lot of value that is really easy to overlook, and that is Master Butcher. Master Butcher is a weird one, and he's one of these champions that basically nobody liked him for a long time, and then Bommel came out, and he became an MVP of Bommel, and then people realized that he's actually got a decent enough kit for useful in some areas. So what you've got an A1 chance to provoke, which is not a high chance to provoke, but it's a chance to provoke, and there's enough places where provoke can be useful. The Magma Dragon, it can be very useful, and he's a right affinity for that. The Hydra, he can be usable as a provoker in Hydra because of this, as well as an A2 where he places that provoke. But what makes him absolutely amazing is he's got this heat exchange where basically the first time he gets hit, he heals all allies, which include himself, the damage that he takes in that first hit. So for Bommel, where those bombs are exploding and doing all kinds of damage for you, he can counter one of those bombs entirely. And if you don't have a Vogoth who has got a very similar passive but does it better because he does it every time he gets hit, this is a good budget version of that. But it also means it makes your team just a little bit tankier because it's just a little bit of healing here or there passively. Now you want to book this down to a 1-turn cooldown, so it basically happens once a round as opposed to once every 2 or 3 rounds. But few books there, you're good. And then he has this wonderful run saving, revives a random ally if he's killed. Not necessarily an end game thing. You certainly can't count on that to do things like 3-star faction wars, for example. But if you're about to die and he revives somebody else and that person can kill the enemy, you've saved a run, which is great. And he just gives you a little more of an insurance policy for an early game rare. Definitely worth at least 4-starring, if not 5-starring on most accounts, just for the early running Bommel, because Bommel is such a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah, being able to basically counteract one of those bombs, something I've never thought of, was not a thing when I played, but that's very clever, very cool. This guy is gorgeous too. I mean,
Oh yeah,
that's quite the face.
definitely want that guy cooking my food. So
He should be around raw meat.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the skinwalkers. You know who I'm gonna
Oh
say.
yeah.
This guy was pretty phenomenal when I played. He is free. I believe it is from the resist stage. Is that right? I actually can't remember what
No,
stage. I'll
I
take
don't
a
think
quick
he's actually
peek.
farmable. It's his brother,
Oh, am I getting him confused? Oh
Graybeard.
no, did I blow
It's
my freaking theme? You're right. Oh
so
no,
yeah. Everyone,
not like
I'm sure I
this.
get that confused all the time. I always think Gnarlhorn is farmable, and there's so many of these guys that look nearly identical too. So it definitely doesn't help. But this dude is absolutely amazing. Why don't you tell me why you think he's amazing? I'll tell you some of the new uses for him as well.
I'll tell you, but I am heartbroken because I was so happy. But you're completely right. Stage 4 with Spirit Host, that's where you get Graybeard, who looks the same to me. But Gnarlhorn's super cool. I hope everyone pulls him. He's Spirit Affinity, and he's just got this really funky duo mechanic between two of his skills that lines up really, really nicely. Basically, he's got that A2 where he's going to throw out this provoke on everyone for 1 turn, and he puts a little baby version increased defense on himself. He gets us down to a 3-turn cooldown. Kind of cool in its own right, but nothing too special. His HP base, his stats are fine. Like they're not so bad it's going to be hard to build him, but they're not good that it's going to make your life easy. When you combine that with his A3, which is also on a 3-tier cooldown and gives unkillable for 2 turns, for tons and tons and tons of content, he can really hard control those raves. Consistent provokes with consistent he doesn't die. Uh, it's pretty special. Like he was really popular for like Doom Tower clears when I played. There's a lot of cute stuff you could do. But what I'm really excited is when I pitched him to you, again, I'm distraught
Mhm.
about the fact that I got him confused with Graybeard. Graybeard's not that bad though, to be fair. But you said he's evolved even further. So I'm very excited to hear about that.
Yeah, it actually revolves around this A1 that he's got. This attack cannot be strong, critical, or weak hit. The mechanics of the Phantom Shogun
Okay.
can basically, he grows his stacks that make him nuke you if he gets weak hit on. And he then throws things around you to make you weak hit. He throws weaken or enfeeble on you, which makes you weak hit. Well, he cannot weak hit, which means he can be enfeebled and still won't weak hit. So you can actually make him what's called an enfeeble tank. So he's the one that gets enfeebled. You make him the highest crit
That's
damage,
awesome.
and then he doesn't actually weak hit. So he's not knocking up the counter so that you eventually just die.
So
And then
you
you can cleanse everybody else but him, and he can still do damage. And then if you use resets, you can actually keep him
okay.
unkillable. So he can always be the person that this guy's attacking constantly, and he never dies. And you
Yeah.
can actually pair him with a Paragon as another option as well to make him unkillable. The Paragon basically makes him unkillable, and he does an A1. But yeah, Gnarlhorn is the Shogun tank in endgame stage 25 Shogun teams.
That's pretty cool because Shogun is like, I'd say, of all the content in this game, that's what I just unlocked it. I have not touched it yet. I don't even know what it drops if I'm being fully transparent. So it's cool to see that he has like a crazy specific use there. So are you saying the way your allies draw aggro from Shogun is based on who has the most crit damage?
Yeah. And in fact,
All right, so
I'll shout out one of
that's
my
okay.
videos. I've got a video on how to build that team. It'll be right above me right here. And yeah, you can build an all rare team to farm Shogun 25 with Gnarlhorn and Paragon. And they're really the only two specific requirements. Reliquary Tender works in that team as well, or anybody with a cleanse is great. And it's a fun team, and it works. It's 100%. It's certainly not necessarily an early game team because you do need to get to like 280-ish speeds on it. But yeah, he's an end game usable rare. Definitely worth keeping
Awesome.
at least one of these guys. He does have to be tuned for it specifically. So if you also want to use him for control in things like Doom Tower or Centranos or something like that, you may want a second one, but he's a rare. They're easy to get by the time you're going to be
Yeah.
worried about Centranos. So awesome.
Who's your
So
final guy?
all right. My final guy is going to be another Sylvan Watcher. So we are going to talk about
Cool.
him. Another one that you got lucky with here is this Tierlock guy
Yes,
is
sir.
absolutely amazing. He is a defense-based champion, so he is going to be fairly tanky. His defense is not as good as Bowsmith Flannan, but it's still pretty solid. Does decent damage, got an A1 decrease attack, which, you know, it's a little version, but again, an A1 debuff, not too bad. He's got a big version of increased speed on all allies. Actually, this is a little version too, but still increased speed on all allies Going to be very good if you don't have that in some other way for a lot of teams. Definitely going to be very good for faction wars, and this can hit fairly hard as a defense. And then he veils himself and puts a shield on all allies for 2 turns equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. So he basically, every couple of turns, veils everybody but this champion. Sorry, I got that even wrong. He veils everybody but them, puts a shield on everybody. It's just absolutely nuts. And then he's got this passive here that decreases the damage received from skills by all allies under Veil or Perfect Veil by 5%. So he gives you a bunch of damage mitigation while also possibly doing some decent damage and giving you some good buffs as well. Just a lot of utility from a rare.
Yeah, he seems really good. Definitely happy. I guess these are some silver linings. Maybe that's why you're shouting out all these guys, because the summons were something else. But I like that. Yes, the decrease accuracy is cool, but you could also just ignore that, and then you don't have to worry about accuracy.
Yep.
Decrease attack, I should say. But then you can ignore, just not worry about accuracy, and just get him tanky, and maybe get him a little fast, so he can really cycle through these shields and keep the increased speed up. And it's going to help in a major way. You could definitely see how he's going to be a nice support carry through a lot of content. And his stats, yeah, he's no Flannan, but that's pretty solid too.
Yeah, that's it. He's not Flannan. Flannan is a rare that's possibly worth building for some end game content. He is probably not, but he is also a champion that, you know, you're going to be one of the last ones to replace on your Faction Wars team as you're approaching the end game of Sylvan Watchers, which means you will probably get weeks, if not months, of content out of him just by building him to 5 stars and throwing some okay gear on him.
Yeah. Awesome point. Yeah.
So
I'm excited.
Awesome. So that is a lot of rare power. Obviously, this, you know, some of these are going to be end game buildable, some of them are not. It's certainly been interesting from the free to play to look for these rares again, because I know it's very easy for me as an end game player to say, "Oh, they're a rare. I don't care. They're food. You know, mulch them here, whatever else." Finding Bowsmith Flannan has definitely been a revelation for me on this free to play account, though. And obviously, it helps a lot of people that are starting brand new accounts, because, you know, he's got a link that's starting new accounts. You know, who knows? Maybe I'll have a link at some point in time to start some new accounts as well. So, you know, it's nice to get some of these things out there. And, you know, you have any final thoughts on some of these?
No, I think it's great. And I think there's a lot of joy that comes from in these games, especially once you played them for a while. When you do start a new account, like I'm on this balling on a budget, like low, moderate spender account, but it's still early. So all this stuff's still exciting. And then certainly with my other game, I'm doing like a very restrictive free to play challenge as well. And it's just really fun getting excited about epics, getting excited about rares, because you do get jaded over time where it's like, oh, if it's not like a meta legendary, I don't care. So yeah, like find the little silver lining Bowsmith Flannans of the game once in a while, and it'll make you have a lot more fun, I think.
Yeah, and that's really kind of one of the things. I know you've talked about it with Raid, and we don't like to think about it for the end game, but the epics are generally mostly usable in Raid. There's not everyone, it's maybe about 50-50, but there are very good usable epics that are usable late into the end game for a lot of accounts. And there's rares that could be usable partially because there's content now where you are limited to only using rares, but partially because some of those rares are actually pretty solid to use for quite a long time. So awesome. So
Yeah, absolutely.
where can they find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me. My channel right now is brand new. We just hit 2 weeks. It's going pretty well. Heading towards 2,000 subscribers, which should be fun. Hopefully in a week or two. It's called Fastidious Gaming. If you just search Fastidious Raid Shadow Legends, it'll be the first thing that comes up. Unless you get some of my old videos, that would be a problem. But search Fastidious Gaming, you'll find it. And I really appreciate it. And thank you, big thank you to Bront, guys. We've collabed a bit, but also behind the scenes, you're always giving me good advice, because a lot has changed, right? Doesn't matter how much I used to play the game. A lot has changed. So I'm always learning a ton from people like you, and I appreciate it. Keep up the awesome work, and please go win that challenge. I'm very invested.
That's the goal at this point in time. It wasn't the goal when I started, but I'm actually, you know, kind of looking at it now, and I kind of have to go for it. So that'll be fun. But yeah, go check him out. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. Do it for both of our channels. We both would appreciate it. And until the next video, well, he's Fastidious, and I'm Bront CatHerder.